How many times have we halted at the starting line, paralyzed by a voice within? I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. It is not the world conspiring against us. It is doubt, fear of failure, and the gaze of others silently infiltrating and steering our every choice. But imagine, just for today, if we stopped waiting for permission, if we dared to grant ourselves the right to believe. Stoicism, the philosophy that forged warriors of iron and leaders of enduring greatness, teaches this. We do not command the external world, but we are forever sovereign over ourselves, and confidence is no miracle. It is a discipline, a skill we are capable of forging. If you are ready to transcend doubt, cultivate inner strength, and truly trust in who you are becoming, then let us step onto this path together. 1. Faith is a choice, not a gift. It does not come from waiting, but from the actions you repeat each day. In common thought, self-confidence is often seen as an innate emotion or a personality trait possessed only by a fortunate few. Some are born bold, daring to think and act. Others live in a state of doubt, waiting for a miracle to make them feel good enough. Yet in the spirit of Stoicism, faith in oneself is not something that arrives naturally. It is the result of a deliberate choice, reinforced by consistent daily action. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control our circumstances, we have complete command over our perceptions, thoughts, and reactions. This means that even in a chaotic, harsh, and judgmental world, each individual retains the power to define how they see themselves. Confidence does not reside in the outside world. It lives in how we choose to define ourselves within it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And you have the power to revoke that estimate at any moment." Likewise, when one feels inadequate, it is not necessarily a reflection of reality. It may simply be a habit of negative judgment, one that can be replaced with a new way of seeing. Choosing to believe in yourself does not mean denying your weaknesses or living under the illusion of perfection. On the contrary, it is the courage to face yourself honestly, to acknowledge imperfection, while still recognizing the ability to move forward. It is a commitment to believe in your capacity to learn, to adapt, and to grow, rather than waiting for some perfect version of yourself to emerge. In Stoic practice, all values must be proven through action. Confidence is no exception. One cannot sit idly by, hoping faith will arrive like a gust of wind. True belief in oneself is built, brick by brick, through each concrete action, however small. When you keep a promise to yourself, complete a task you set, or overcome a challenge that once seemed beyond your reach, you forge living proof that strengthens your self-trust. We can envision confidence as a wall of bricks, each brick representing a specific action, placed deliberately and steadily. Without action, that wall will never exist, and self-confidence will remain a distant dream. Yet with each right action repeated, no matter how small, the wall grows stronger and higher, a sturdy refuge against the storms of doubt and disappointment. Stoic philosophy does not judge a person by outcomes or success, but by the effort to live according to reason and virtue. Thus, faith in oneself does not come from external validation, but from the inner assurance that you are acting in accordance with your values. The Stoic does not need applause from the world. They need only to know they are doing what is right in the right way, regardless of the outcome. A crucial element in building self-belief lies in how we speak to ourselves. Phrases like, "I can't," "I'm not good at this," or "I'm not enough," become silent commands etched deep into the mind. Conversely, replacing them with, "I am learning to do this better," or "I am resilient enough to continue," gradually reshapes the mind's view of itself. Inner dialogue in the Stoic spirit is where all action begins. Yet this does not mean that confidence will remain constant and unshaken. There will be days of failure and moments when doubt surges. But those who understand Stoic wisdom do not abandon their path because of a fleeting emotion. They learn to distinguish between transient feelings and enduring principles, and they choose to stand with principle, not with emotion. Stoicism does not promise a life without mistakes, but it arms us with the tools to rise again whenever we fall. And faith is among the most powerful of these tools. Not blind faith, but a belief nurtured through reason, discipline, and steadfast practice. Entering oneself is not distant or unattainable. It is present within each person as a seed waiting for nurture. Every right decision, every deliberate action, every time you choose not to heed the voice of doubt, but to press on because it is the right thing to do, you are choosing to believe in yourself. The beauty is that this belief can be renewed each day. It does not matter how many times you have failed or how many have doubted you. Every morning you can choose again to live by your values, to act with responsibility, to rebuild your trust in yourself through tangible steps. Stoic philosophy does not demand perfection before you are worthy of faith. It only asks that you be honest with yourself, persistent in the process, and steadfast in doing what is right. In that journey, self-belief is no longer a luxury or a stroke of fortune, but the inevitable result of conscious choices repeated across the days of your life. 2. The brain can be reprogrammed. Change your thoughts, change your life. For thousands of years, people believed the brain was a fixed system. As one matured, neural connections became limited, and the possibility of change nearly vanished. Yet modern neuroscience has proven the opposite. The concept of neuroplasticity reveals that the brain can restructure itself, form new connections, and alter its functions through experience, practice, and deliberate awareness. This opens a new horizon. The thoughts, habits, and emotions experienced daily are not an unchangeable fate, but the result of neural pathways shaped over time. Every time a negative thought is repeated, such as, "I'm not good enough," "I will fail again," or "I can't change," those negative pathways grow stronger. Conversely, by altering the content of our thoughts and actions, we begin to forge new, more effective paths. Stoic philosophy recognized this truth long before modern science. Without today's technical vocabulary, thinkers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius emphasized the daily cultivation of the mind as a necessary discipline. For the Stoic, the mind is not a vessel for random emotions, but a garden to be consciously tended, governed, and directed. Left unattended, weeds will surely grow. This truth is evident in how humans are shaped by the environment and information they absorb daily. When exposed constantly to negativity from media, social networks, or the low energies of others, the mind easily spirals into doubt, judgment, and fear. In contrast, by deliberately cultivating a positive mental environment through curated content, good habits, and connections with inspiring individuals, the brain gradually reshapes how it perceives and responds to the world. An essential key to reprogramming the brain is deliberate repetition. Each small act, when performed consistently, creates new connections within the mind. For instance, writing a gratitude journal each morning or reminding oneself of core values helps replace unconscious thoughts with intentional choices. It is not a matter of thinking once, but of daily training, like a warrior honing his weapon. Stoicism also emphasizes observing thoughts rather than identifying with them. When a negative thought arises, the Stoic practitioner does not immediately react or accept it. They step back, recognize the emotion, and interrogate the thought. Is this true? What evidence supports this belief? Is there another way to see this? Questioning is the first step to dismantling old mental ruts and rebuilding cognitive frameworks. Beyond noticing thoughts, changing inner language is a powerful tool to rewire the mind. Instead of saying, "I always fail," the Stoic would say, "I have failed before, but I am learning to improve." Shifting from always to have before may seem minor, yet it profoundly impacts internal perception. Language does not merely describe reality, it shapes it. Thus, speaking with care becomes an act of transforming thought at its roots. Another tool Stoics often employ is visualization, not dreamy daydreaming, but purposeful foresight, such as the technique of premeditatio, imagining potential hardships to mentally prepare. Through regular practice, the brain no longer perceives adversity as a shocking blow. It gradually becomes programmed to respond with calm reason, not panic. Reprogramming the brain cannot be separated from the physical environment and the time dedicated to practice. One who lives in chaos, constantly interrupted, and without time for stillness, will struggle to shift their thinking. By contrast, creating a serene space, even 10 minutes each morning to write, reflect, or meditate, gives the brain the chance to step out of reaction mode and enter a state of clarity and focus. Rewiring the brain is neither easy nor quick. It demands persistence, consistency, and patience. Yet understanding that the brain can change is the first spark of hope and empowerment. The Stoic does not wait for change to come from without. They turn inward, disciplining their perception, knowing this is the only domain they truly command. Neuroplasticity is not merely a scientific term. It is proof of human flexibility and potential. Anyone at any stage of life can rewrite the narrative of how they think, feel, and act. Beginning with self-observation, altering small habits, and repeating right actions, the brain, once a shackle of limitation, becomes a tool of inner liberation. In the Stoic spirit, this is a duty not to become a victim of outdated thinking. The Stoic chooses to master the mind because they understand how we think determines how we live. And when we change the way we think, we change the entire course of our lives. 3. To keep faith steady amidst emotion, observe your feelings. Do not let them decide for you. Emotions are an inseparable part of the human experience. They come and go like waves, powerful, sudden, and sometimes uncontrollable. Faith in oneself, if not anchored to a firm foundation, can easily be swept away by the fleeting tides of emotion. When joyful, people feel capable of anything. When sorrowful, all value can seem nullified. This fluctuation is why many lose their way, not from lack of ability, but from a lack of mastery over their emotions. Stoicism, with its core emphasis on inner self-mastery, long recognized the deep link between emotion and self-trust. For the Stoic, emotions are not enemies, but neither are they permitted to command the spirit. They do not deny emotions. They simply refuse to let them dictate how they judge themselves or determine their actions. From the Stoic perspective, people are not disturbed by external events, but by the meaning they assign to them. A criticism does not wound unless the listener grants it the power to offend. A failure does not devastate unless one allows it to define their worth. Thus, emotion arises not from the nature of events, but from the subjective reactions to those events. Marcus Aurelius once emphasized, "The mind adapts itself to whatever it encounters, provided it does not interpret the encounter as harmful." His words reveal that emotions become problematic only when we choose to see events through a negative lens. Therefore, To safeguard self-trust from emotional distortion, one must learn to observe emotions without becoming one with them. The ability to observe emotions requires a mental distance, a stepping back that allows one to recognize what is unfolding within, rather than immediately reacting. The Stoic cultivates this through daily internal examinations, regularly asking, "What am I feeling? Where is this coming from? Is this emotion worth acting on?" This is not cold analysis, but a disciplined practice to keep the mind clear and steady. One simple yet powerful technique Stoics employ to face emotions is journaling. Writing down emotions allows one to view their psychological state more objectively. It creates a separation between the feeler and the feeling, opening the door to control rather than submission. Beyond recognizing emotions, Stoics use ethical principles as a compass to guide their responses. When negative emotions arise, anger, envy, disappointment, they do not ask, "Do I feel like expressing this?" but rather, "Is this action aligned with the virtue I pursue?" In this way, behavior is not ruled by emotion, but led by reason and clear values. For the Stoic, inner stability is the foundation of all trustworthy action. A person easily swayed by emotion will act erratically, and this inconsistency erodes self-trust. Conversely, by responding with constancy, neither soaring too high in success nor falling too low in failure, they slowly build a resilient, self-assured foundation. This faith does not stem from smooth circumstances, but from the ability to keep reason intact amid turmoil. Stoicism does not teach one to become an emotionless machine. It acknowledges emotions as natural, but insists they be kept in their proper place. Like wild horses, emotions, when trained, become a source of power. When left unchecked, they can wreck the moving chariot. Thus, the Stoic continually trains to dialogue with emotions, neither suppressing nor surrendering to them. A common example is fear, an emotion that can easily shatter self-belief. The Stoic does not deny fear's presence. Instead, they ask, "What am I afraid of? Why does this seem fearful?" By examining the nature of fear, they realize much of it is imagination, not reality. This recognition restores their calm and prevents fear from directing their actions. Another emotion that often shakes self-trust is self-reproach, the feeling of not being good enough, not doing enough, or being undeserving. In such moments, the Stoic returns to the examination of the deeds. They do not judge themselves by feelings, but by whether they have acted with responsibility and discipline. Action, not emotion, is the standard. Experience shows that those who can separate emotion from self-assessment possess greater inner strength. They are not easily moved by praise or criticism, not overly proud in victory, nor shattered in defeat. They understand that all things are temporary, but self-mastery, once cultivated, can endure. Protecting faith from emotional sway is not about denying one's humanity. It is the journey of mastering oneself, a difficult yet essential pursuit. Stoicism offers a map through the chaotic terrain of emotion without losing one's way. On this journey, practitioners do not seek shallow positive feelings, but build genuine inner peace by rightly understanding and steering their emotions. In a world where emotion is often seen as the compass for every decision, learning not to let faith be swayed by feelings is a powerful act of rebellion. It is how one plants their feet firmly in the storm, keeping the inner compass true, no matter how wildly the world around them shifts. 4. Breaking the invisible limits. The greatest barrier is the one you believe is real. Some barriers do not exist in the external world, but live entirely within the human mind. These are invisible limits formed from fear, doubt, negative beliefs, and habits of avoidance. They cannot be seen with the eye, yet they are strong enough to keep a person trapped within the bounds of comfort, preventing them from ever fully discovering their true potential. These limits are not imposed by circumstance, but arise from the way people think about themselves and their capabilities. Stoicism rests on the principle that while we cannot control external events, we can always control our response to them. Thus, invisible limits are not objective realities, but the product of subjective reactions. When a person encounters failure and concludes, "I am not good enough," that is not an absolute truth, but a choice of interpretation. When such an interpretation is repeated over and over, it becomes a limiting belief, a barrier not built by the outside world, but constructed by the mind itself. The Stoics understood that thought itself is the root of all limitation. Epictetus emphasized, "Men are not disturbed by events, but by the views they take of them." If belief in one's ability is shaped from within, then changing perception is the key to dismantling what once seemed immovable. This does not mean denying difficulty, but refusing to let temporary obstacles define the entirety of one's being. Invisible limits are often reinforced by the habit of delaying action. People tend to wait until they feel ready to begin, ready in knowledge, skill, confidence, or permission from others. Yet, in the Stoic spirit, readiness is an illusion. It does not arise from waiting, but from action. Even in uncertainty, a single small step is enough to pierce the first layer of doubt. Through action, we create new evidence for ourselves, and step by step, the walls begin to crumble. Overcoming internal barriers requires training, much like building muscle. Marcus Aurelius saw adversity as essential for forging mental strength. When facing hardship, the Stoic does not complain but asks, "What strength is this moment calling me to cultivate?" This reframing ensures that obstacles do not halt their progress, but become instruments for expanding their current boundaries. Beyond action, another powerful tool in breaking invisible limits is identifying limiting beliefs. Thoughts like, "I can't speak in public," "I'm not leadership material," or "I'm too shy to succeed," are not facts. They are inherited from past experiences, personal narratives, or societal influence. The Stoic does not accept such declarations as truth. They ask, "Is this statement true in all cases? Who said this, and on what grounds? Do I have any evidence to the contrary?" Through such questioning, the power of limiting beliefs begins to weaken. Another crucial element is fear, a key force sustaining invisible barriers. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of being unrecognized. All of these emotions pull people back into the safety of the familiar. But within Stoic philosophy, fear is not a signal to retreat, but a compass pointing toward areas that demand exploration. If something stirs fear, it likely touches upon what the heart truly desires. Thus, rather than avoiding fear, the Stoic learns to move toward it, pushing beyond the mind's self-imposed borders. The technique of visualization, deliberate mental rehearsal, was also employed by Stoic thinkers to confront invisible limits. They did not merely imagine positive outcomes. They envisioned the worst-case scenarios. By preparing the mind for adversity, they reduced the grip of unseen fears and remained composed when reality struck. When fear no longer commands action, freedom emerges. And that freedom is the liberation from internal limits. Invisible limits are also fueled by unnecessary social comparisons. Observing the successes of others often leads many to diminish their own worth. Yet from the Stoic perspective, no one can walk another's personal journey. Each individual faces unique circumstances, challenges, and goals. Instead of comparing, the Stoic focuses on personal progress, each small step taken, each value lived out. They measure growth not by immediate success, but by being better today than yesterday. Another supporting factor in dismantling invisible limits is the environment, relationships, the information consumed, and the words frequently heard all shape how people view their abilities. The Stoic is deliberate in choosing their surroundings. They prioritize positive influences and distance themselves from energies that weaken the will. They understand that the mind, like soil, must be cleared of weeds to cultivate the good. Ultimately, breaking invisible limits is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. Every time we confront a fear, act imperfectly, yet courageously, or raise our voice though we expand the frame through which we see ourselves. As this journey repeats, faith in self strengthens, and barriers once thought unbreakable begin to vanish. Stoicism does not promise an easy path, but it offers clear principles to move forward. Live according to reason, act rightly, cultivate inner discipline, and refuse to let mental constructs rule destiny. In the light of these principles, every limit can be broken, not by fighting the world, but by reconstructing perception from within. 5. Shaping destiny through thought. Thinking does not merely create action, it creates destiny. Destiny is often seen as a matter of chance, something that happens beyond human control. While many believe life is ruled by fate, circumstances, or luck, Stoic philosophy presents a radically different view. Destiny is not an external force imposed upon us, but the direct result of our thinking and daily choices. We do not create everything that happens to us, but we always shape our response, and it is that response that charts the course of our lives. Stoicism holds that thought is the root of all action. How we think about the world, about ourselves, and about our values determines how we perceive, decide, and react to every situation. A person who believes adversity is unfair tends to avoid hardship, blame circumstances, and lose the will to act. In contrast, one who sees adversity as a chance to strengthen character approaches challenges with readiness and maturity. Different thinking leads to different living. This is the core foundation of the philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor devoted to Stoicism, wrote, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." This insight reveals that destiny is not dictated by supernatural forces, but forged through inner thought. Each thought is a small unit that shapes our attitude toward life, and attitude becomes the compass of our actions. Repeated actions form habits. Habits, over time, forge character, and it is character that draws the trajectory of life, or in other words, shapes destiny. Thought has two sides, one rooted in emotion and bias, the other built upon reason and a discipline. Stoicism does not deny emotion, but places reason at the helm. In every situation, the Stoic asks, "What am I thinking about this? What action will this thought lead to? Does this action reflect the values I strive for?" These questions are not abstract philosophy. They are practical tools for self-examination and the conscious reshaping of thought. One powerful tool within Stoic philosophy for mastering thought is premeditatio malorum, the practice of envisioning the worst-case scenario. Instead of avoiding negative possibilities, the Stoic deliberately imagines them as a way of mental preparation. This does not breed pessimism. It strengthens readiness and reduces shock. When thought is prepared beforehand, emotion no longer commands, and reason guides action. Visualization is the clear mark of a mind sharpened through practice and depth. Another principle essential for shaping thought in Stoicism is distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus clearly stated, "What belongs to us, our thoughts, choices, and reactions, we can control. What does not, whether others' opinions, external events. We must not waste effort trying to master. Training the mind to focus on what is within reach makes us more effective, calmer, and steadier. This focus lays the groundwork for real influence over one's destiny. Thought also directly influences how we define success and failure. If success is seen as something dependent on external validation, failure can shatter self-belief. But if success is defined as loyalty to one's values and right action, even unfavorable outcomes cannot erode the sense of progress and agency. Thought is the lens through which we interpret all life experience. Change the lens, and the world itself appears transformed. Thought acts as a filter for the information we absorb. Guided by reason and clear purpose, a person learns to curate what nourishes the mind, steering clear of distractions and influences that weaken spirit. A well-nourished mind breeds clarity, enabling more precise and enduring decisions. These decisions, accumulated over time, are the building blocks of destiny. Another key aspect is the link between thought and steadfastness. In Stoicism, a mature mind is not measured by intellect alone, but by the ability to hold to principle amid turmoil. When all seems to fall apart, a trained mind does not react impulsively, but asks, what is the right action here? Which value must I uphold? What choice will I not regret once calm is restored? The consistency between thought, action, and values is the foundation for forging a destiny with clear direction. Stoicism does not deny the existence of randomness in life, but it refuses to let randomness dictate the self. It advocates actively training the mind to exert influence where influence is possible. In doing so, Stoics write the script of their lives with their own hands, not by vague hopes, but by deliberate, rational, and consistent choices. When thought is built upon self-mastery, clarity, and discipline, one ceases to be a victim of circumstance and becomes the author of their destiny, not because they control everything that happens, but because they control how they live through everything that happens. 6. Resilience comes from a clear understanding of one's own values. Resilience is often associated with strength, endurance, or an unyielding will in the face of adversity. However, from the Stoic perspective, resilience is not merely about toughness under trial. It arises more profoundly from a clear recognition of one's core values. When a person understands what they live for, what is non-negotiable, and where their moral foundation lies, they stand firm against any external turbulence. According to Stoic philosophy, a person is easily shaken when their values are rooted in factors beyond their control, such as reputation, wealth, status, or the approval of others. These factors fluctuate with time, human emotion, and circumstance. When one depends on them to define their worth, instability follows. Vulnerability to rejection, wavering under criticism, and collapse when something seemingly vital is lost. Conversely, the Stoic chooses to anchor their self-worth in what lies wholly within their control: moral character, reason, discipline, integrity, and right action. These values are independent of circumstance or recognition by others. A person may lose all possessions, be misunderstood, or endure suffering, but if they retain integrity, act according to reason, and remain faithful to their moral principles, their inner worth remains untouched. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, emphasized, "No one can harm you without your consent." This statement reflects a vital truth. True harm does not come from others' actions, but from how one judges oneself after the experience. When a person has a clear grasp of their values, they do not allow the words or deeds of others to destabilize their inner foundation. Thus, they develop enduring resilience, not by ignoring pain, but by refusing to equate their worth with external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote, "Remember that human dignity lies in keeping your reason clear and steadfast in every circumstance." For him, resilience did not mean resistance or grim endurance. It meant maintaining clarity, refusing to be ruled by emotion, and remaining loyal to foundational values, even when everything around crumbles. This consistency in action is the clearest evidence of true inner strength. In practice, the less a person understands their own values, the more they are swept up by societal expectations, comparisons, and self-doubt. Constant comparison breeds a sense of never enough, which corrodes confidence and weakens the ability to recover from failure. In contrast, when someone knows who they are, what they live for, and what truly matters, they no longer seek validation from outside. They can stand firm amid others' successes without feeling diminished, and face their own failures without losing self-worth. Inner resilience also reveals itself in how one confronts mistakes. Those with a clear sense of value do not deny their errors, nor do they allow mistakes to define their entire being. They accept errors as part of growth, extract lessons, and move forward without excessive guilt or shame. Meanwhile, those lacking clear internal values are prone to harsh self-judgment, rumination, and surrender after setbacks. An indispensable part of nurturing resilience is the practice of self-reflection. The Stoic dedicates daily time to examine their actions, thoughts, and reactions, not to reproach themselves, but to better understand their strengths and weaknesses, and whether they are living in alignment with their professed values. This deep internal connection, built through reflection, forms the bedrock of lasting fortitude. Moreover, inner resilience is not dependent on outcomes. The Stoic acts from principle, not from a guarantee of success. When right actions go unrecognized, they stay the course. When outcomes fall short of hopes, they maintain calm and resolve. This empowers them to endure failure without losing self-respect and to withstand hardship without fracturing faith in themselves. Ultimately, true resilience is not loud. It does not manifest in denying emotion or pretending constant strength. Rather, it resides in the quiet confidence of one who knows who they are, why they live, and what cannot be compromised. They may be gentle in conversation, yet unyielding in principle. They may retreat tactically in a situation, yet never surrender their inner core. Stoicism offers no fixed formula for resilience, but provides a clear map. Build a firm personal value system, live by it each day, and let it guide you through all adversity. When that foundation is deep enough, no storm can break it. 7. Gratitude for the present, the source of true strength. In modern life, where people are constantly swept up in the whirlwind of future goals and unmet ambitions, a sense of lack becomes a common state of mind. They easily fall into anxiety over what has not yet happened, or regret over what has passed. In this context, Stoicism offers a different perspective. Gratitude for the present is not merely a moral gesture, but a practical tool for building inner resilience and lasting spiritual strength. According to Stoic thought, human suffering does not stem from circumstances, but from the way one perceives them. When a person focuses on what they lack or what they have lost, they create a perpetual sense of deficiency. This feeling does not necessarily reflect reality, but it is strong enough to erode inner strength, causing them to lose the ability to fully utilize what they already have. Conversely, when one cultivates the habit of being grateful for what is present, from health, intellect, and relationships, to simply the chance to live another day, They shift their mind from scarcity to abundance, from dissatisfaction to tranquility. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest figures, in Meditations, often reminded himself of the impermanence of all things. He was grateful for each living moment, not because he lacked great responsibilities, but because he recognized that everything is transient and the only true possession humans have is the present moment. Appreciating the present did not make him passive. It allowed him to act with greater focus, free from distraction by past regrets or future anxieties. From the Stoic viewpoint, gratitude is not an emotion that appears when life becomes ideal, but a chosen attitude, especially in adversity. When hardship strikes, instinct often drives people to dwell on the negative. Yet if, in that moment, they can still recognize what they possess, such as the opportunity to learn, to cultivate patience, or even simply to train character, their mind does not collapse entirely. The ability to find something to appreciate, even in imperfect circumstances, is a clear sign of a mind forged through discipline. Stoicism also teaches that gratitude keeps humility alive. When a person is grateful for what they have, they no longer feel that the world owes them anything. They no longer place themselves at the center of existence, but see themselves as part of a greater whole. This attitude allows them to meet success without arrogance and endure loss without losing direction. When gratitude is present, people are less governed by endless desires, and thus they diminish negative emotions like envy, comparison, and discontent. One effective Stoic practice for cultivating gratitude is daily journaling, listing even the smallest things worthy of appreciation. This is not to deny difficulty, but to restore balance in thought. The human mind naturally remembers the negative more vividly than the positive. Therefore, actively reminding oneself of what is valuable is a way to steer perception and prevent fleeting emotions from dictating the whole of life's experience. Gratitude for the present also liberates people from the illusion of controlling the future. Stoicism teaches that the future is inherently unpredictable, and placing emotional investment entirely in future outcomes only invites disappointment. When people learn to find satisfaction in doing well today, they no longer feel the pressure to chase after what they do not yet possess. This is not an abandonment of goals, but a reminder. Happiness and spiritual strength are not deferred to some ideal future moment. They can be built here and now. A critical point in Stoic thought is the acceptance of death as a natural part of life. When one remembers that life is finite, they come to view the present with deeper reverence. They no longer see today as a given, but as a privilege. When the Stoic rises each morning, they do not simply begin another day. They see it as another opportunity to live with virtue, to act wisely, and to deepen their connection to true values. Gratitude for life itself forms the foundation for profound awareness and empowers them to face hardships with an active, prepared spirit. In a world that glorifies speed, competition, and achievement, pausing to practice gratitude for the present may seem unrealistic. Yet in that simplicity, Stoicism reveals a crucial truth. The mind cannot be at peace if it is constantly led by what it does not yet have. Gratitude for the present severs the endless cycle of wanting more and not enough, the two emotions that fuel much of inner discontent. When the inner world is stable, one no longer needs the outer world to be perfect in order to live with peace and determination. True strength does not come from controlling circumstances, but from mastering the internal response to those circumstances. And the most powerful response is gratitude. Not gratitude as a fleeting feeling, but gratitude as a habit, a mindset, a conscious choice repeated daily. We often think that to change our lives, we must do something grand, a major breakthrough, a defining moment. But what I've learned from Stoicism is this: the deepest transformations come from quiet, steady changes in the way we think every single day. I began this journey with one very small act, writing down 3 things I was grateful for each morning. At first, it felt hollow, but over time, I realized it didn't just calm my mind. It helped me see the values already present, the ones I had overlooked, while too busy chasing what I thought I had to achieve. Each time emotions surged, instead of reacting immediately, I practiced pausing and asking myself, am I being driven by emotion, or am I acting according to reason? That simple question, if repeated long enough, has saved me from careless words, poor decisions, and unnecessary regret. Stoicism does not make life easier, but it gives me a compass. No matter how chaotic the world outside may be, I can still hold a steady point within, a place where self-mastery, gratitude, and unwavering trust are. If you feel that this video has touched something within you, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss upcoming content. And wherever you are on your journey, remember this: true freedom begins within when we choose to master ourselves. See you in the next video.